Hey everybody, my name is Luke. I'm going to be showing you all a nice easy breakfast you can do. Obviously you've been seeing a lot of really good videos of dinners, but this morning I'm going to show you a really delicious breakfast. So today I'm going to be making something that's pretty simple, but can be delicious, and you can vary it depending on what you want in the morning. But it's going to be a quinoa oatmeal. So the first thing I'm going to do is start my water on my kettle. If you have an electric kettle, great. If you don't, you can use a stove kettle, or you can just heat up water in the microwave. I'm going to be making a larger batch today than I normally do, just so that I have plenty to last me and my partner throughout the week. So I'm going to be using 8 cups of water. You can do half of all of the measurements that I'm using today to be able to make less if you don't need quite as much. But if you have a big family, or you want to have an easy meal prep for the entire week for you and everyone else, this is a good amount. So while the water's heating up, I'm going to take my quinoa. We have just a cup of quinoa, and first thing I always like to do with my quinoa before I actually use it is rinse it. So I'm just going to put it in a sieve right here and rinse it off. Quinoa can be a little bit bitter if you don't rinse it, and since we're doing this in a breakfast, we want it to not be on the bitter side, so I'm just going to give it a good rinse. Let that go. Sweet. And then while our water's heating up, next thing we're going to do is get the oats started in the pot. So first thing I like to do is get the stove going. You're going to want it on just like a medium-high heat. You don't need to have it up super high. I use coconut oil for this first part. You can use coconut oil, olive oil, whatever oil you have present at the time. But coconut oil is my go-to, especially for breakfast. I use again, I don't use measurements much like my dad, except for things that absolutely need to be measured. But with the oil, you don't need a lot, definitely less than a tablespoon. You're really just getting a little bit to coat the bottom of your pot here. And then once we get this melted down, we're going to be adding in our oats. Today I'm using steel cut oats. I prefer steel cut oats over regular oats because they tend to be a bit chewier. They taste a lot better than your rolled oats. So if you can, get steel cut oats. They're a lot better. They're not quite that same boring rolled oat that you get. Sweet. So once we get this up and heated, and we have the oil, coconut oil either melted, or you have your olive oil nice and warm, I'm going to add in 2 cups of steel cut oats, and this is just going to sit in here, and I'm going to stir it around for about 2 minutes. The reason I'm doing this before adding in water with it is to give this a nice little toasty flavor. If you kind of toast it beforehand, it has a better flavor when you're actually eating it than if you just add water straight to your oats. So this kind of amps up that flavor a little bit, and it makes the breakfast a little less boring. This is a great meal that you can make on the weekends when you have plenty of time, or if you're laid off, not working right now, and you have that forever ending Saturday, or that never ending Saturday rather, you can make it whatever day of the week you want then, and have plenty for, 4, 5, 8 days, depending on how much you make. So you're just going to make sure you mix it around too while you're cooking this. You don't mix it too much. Some of it might just get a little burnt, start sticking to the pan. We definitely don't want that. And again, you don't want so much oil in there that it's really, really oily. You want just enough that it's allows the oats to get just a little coated in it, but you don't want it soaking in oil. And then our water, we're gonna let that go until it's close to boiling. So we don't want it quite at boiling water. We just want it to be really warm. So by the time we add this in, it'll get to a boil really quick, and then we can immediately put it down to a simmer. This just cuts down the cook time a lot, so that you don't have to let this get to a boil before adding, or before putting it down to a simmer. So I'm gonna let that go right there. I may have to do 2 batches of water through the kettle because this is gonna call for 8 cups. I like to use a liquid measuring cup rather than a regular measuring cup because, as you may know, it's harder to get an accurate reading if you use a regular measuring cup to know that you actually got it all the way to the top. So we've got 4 cups, and then I'm also going to add in all the quinoa now. Got 6 cups going. Let's see if this makes 8. That'd be awesome. I've never actually made this much before, so wow, perfect. 1.8 liters is how much I can hold in this, and it definitely makes 8 cups of liquid. So we're just gonna add all that in, and then I like to add just a little bit of salt. Pinch of salt. Definitely less than a teaspoon, but you can do whatever your heart desires. Sweet. So we're gonna want to stir this around just a little bit. Get that salt in there. Get the oatmeal mixed in with the quinoa. The reason I add quinoa to this too is I don't eat meat, so I like to get extra protein where I can. It adds just a little extra protein, and it doesn't really change the flavor very much. Same consistency. It's delicious. So we're gonna let that get back up to a boil. While that's getting up to a boil, I'm gonna also kind of chop up some of the things that I like to add into it. There are a few things I like to add, and you can turn the heat back up to get it up to a boil now that it's not just oats and a tiny bit of oil. So you can get it up to high so it can get up to a boil. But some of the things that I like to use or add into my oatmeal once it's all cooked is nuts. I like to add berries as well. You can honestly add whatever you want into it. It's your oatmeal. You want to put some maple syrup, some brown sugar, powdered sugar. If you want to add an egg on it, because you like doing that too, you can do that. Whatever you want. So once I get this up to a boil, I'm just going to actually turn it down to a simmer. Simmers can be anywhere between low, medium, low, depending on how your burner is. Everyone's got different burners. No one's got that perfect burner that is consistent all the time. So sometimes you need on low, sometimes you need on medium low. bring it down to a simmer, and we're gonna leave this uncovered. So we're not gonna cover it. A lot of oatmeals or quinoas tend to be covered. We're gonna leave it uncovered. I'm gonna set a timer here for 25 minutes, and we're gonna stir this on and off while it's cooking. So some of the nuts I like to use is cashews. I really love cashews. You can use almonds as well. So before I'm gonna just chop these nuts up, because I don't quite like them to be whole. I want it to be minced down just a little bit. And again, always make sure you're using a sharp knife. Don't use a dull knife. So, many of you have been watching some videos, some cooking videos. A lot of you probably been cooking more at home since all of this COVID-19 stuff has been going on. If there are things that you're curious more about in terms of meals that you want to learn how to cook, or certain things that you want to see more of on my dad's cooking channel, comment below. Let us know. I know he'd be happy to make different things. I'm also gonna make different things every once in a while, and hopefully he'll guest star me more than just this once. Hopefully my meal's good enough for him. I also thought I'd mix it up from, you know, all the dinners that he makes to something that's just as delicious. So, and I think breakfast is honestly the most important meal of the day. Not because, you know, a lot of people say you should eat breakfast every single day, and I totally agree with that. But at the same time, I also think breakfast is way underrated most of the time, and people end up doing the same thing because they're lazy or they don't have enough time, which is totally understandable if you're really busy. But I think breakfast is the best meal of the day. I love breakfast more than any other meal just because I love making breakfast foods. I'm tired at the end of the day. I don't quite like making dinner quite as much, but breakfast I love making. I fortunately had a job that didn't start super early in the morning, so I had time to make delicious breakfasts. I could spend 30, 40 minutes in the kitchen in the morning and make something delicious. So, yeah, I think breakfast is delicious and the best. And totally underrated. So, cashews, one of the nuts I like to use. I also like to use peanuts. I usually like using almonds too, but I'm out of almonds right now. So again, you can use whatever you'd like. Another thing you can use if you want something super high in protein is pumpkin seeds. Seeds are also a great way to get some protein in the morning. Add some extra crunch into your meal. Sorry, my Roomba just went off, and it can be loud, so I didn't want it to deter from this wonderful cooking experience. But like I was saying, pumpkin seeds have a ton of protein in them for how small they are. I believe they have the most amount of protein out of or one of the most amount of proteins for seeds, and they're not very expensive. I know hemp seeds are a thing that, or hemp hearts are a thing that a lot of people are doing now for protein, but pumpkin seeds are a delicious way to add protein in as well, and they tend to be a little bit less expensive. So there should still be plenty of water at this point. It's only been cooking for about 10 minutes or so. But you can definitely see that it's starting to get nice and cooked. One of the things too, if you like your oatmeal to be chewier, add a little bit less water. Maybe do a cup or a half cup less than what I'm doing. And so that way it'll cook through the water a little bit faster. You'll have a little chewier, harder oatmeal. If you like it creamier, do the same amount of water, but just let it cook a little bit longer. Maybe instead of 20-25 minutes, do 25 to 30 minutes. And that's gonna let it get a little bit creamier than it would had you stopped when I usually tend to stop. One of the nice things about this meal too is you can put it on the stove and then you got 15-20 minutes to, then hang out, have some coffee, do the few dishes that you just made. Obviously this is a pretty simple meal that doesn't really take many dishes. Sit on your phone, scroll through Facebook, read all those updates you've been meaning to read. But we'll come back in about 15 minutes once this is almost done. For those of you who really like the top-down view, this is what your oats should look like simmering. You can see some small low bubbles there, but it's not this raging boil. And as you can see, there's a lot of water that's been cooked down. So our oats have been cooking for just about 25 minutes now. So at this point, pretty much all of the water should be cooked out. You'll see a little bit of water still mixed in with the oats. Again, if you want it to be creamier, let the rest of that water continue to cook for another 5-10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it so that nothing gets burnt, obviously. Then, once we're here, I add in a cup of milk. You can use whatever kind of milk you want. I use an almond cashew milk because I like it, but use whatever milk you usually use and that you like. And then just mix that in. That's going to give it a nice creamy texture as well. And it adds a little bit more protein. It's going to make your oats really, really good. If you don't want to add the milk though, you don't have to. But I tend to like my oats to be a little bit like this, so I'll add some milk in. And then we'll just make sure to turn that heat off. Mix it in nice and well. And then let's dish that up. Dress it. And if you don't know already, oats can be really filling, so don't fill your bowl up all the way. I like to add in a little bit of maple syrup, just to make it a little bit sweeter. So again, this is to taste, do what you like. And then I'm a berry fan too, so we'll add some blueberries in there. Sprinkle some cashews on top. Some peanuts as well. And lastly, sprinkle in pumpkin seeds. I actually really like pumpkin seeds, so I'm just going to put all of these in. Voila! There you've got your wonderful meal and plenty left over for the remainder of the week. You can leave it, let it sit for a little while, let it cool before you decide to transfer it into containers to put in your fridge. At this point, you can also add in a sweetener if you want, so that you don't have to do it day of, or you could just add in all of your add-ons day of. I usually don't add berries or nuts or anything like that until I'm about to eat it. Otherwise, they can get kind of weird. So, hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.